Well, welcome everyone. Tonight we're going to be doing a masterclass, and we're excited to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully you'll learn a few things and walk away really excited to invest in real estate.
Okay, well, good. And we still have a bunch of people coming in, so we will pull up the presentation. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
And then at the end, we'll take some time also. Kenji and I will take some time to answer any questions. So you can feel free to throw Q&As into the Q&A piece, and we'll see them when we get to the end. So we probably will not answer them in the middle, but we'll get to them for sure at the end.
Okay, all right. Okay, now can everyone see our screen? All right.
Good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me just set everything up here. And then, all right. Okay,
Yay.
good.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay, well, everyone, I'm Letizia, this is Kenji, and we'll talk a little bit about who we are in a couple slides, just so you guys get to hear a little bit about our story if you don't know us before. But tonight we'll be talking to you about going from an overworked doctor to a savvy real estate investor, and showing you how you can make 100K in your first year as a real estate investor. And I actually saw there were a couple of our alumni in the audience, so they'll be able to vouch also that of some of the things they've been able to do.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a question that probably a lot of you are thinking about right now, just with this environment and going into a recession. You know, how can real estate help me secure my finances in this environment? Because you've probably seen your 401k lose value, and just are thinking about other sources of passive income or other sources of wealth and where you can look.
Yeah, and some people are talking about, the next 5 to 10 years could be another lost decade for stocks, right? What if that happens? What if over the next 10 years, stocks don't go up at all, right? What if they stay stable or if they go down?
And so what we're going to show you in this masterclass is how you can use rental properties to develop that other source of income, significant enough monthly income to really secure your finances and grow your net worth in just 1 year, and ideally be in the situation that we're in, which is we don't actually ever plan on needing our retirement accounts. That's kind of how I think a lot of our community thinks about our retirement accounts. Once you've grown enough real estate to bring in that monthly income, kind of just don't need it anymore. So here are some of the things we're going to cover. Why investing in cash flowing rentals, or another way to say that is income producing properties, why it's so valuable, especially during a recession. How to buy profitable rentals no matter what the market is doing, how to add significant value to your properties, the tax benefits of owning rental properties, and how to make 100K in your first year of real estate investing. And we're going to give you some examples of people who have done that as well. And just for attending today, we have a special bonus as well. It's called the checklist for buying rentals. And in it, you'll see a lot of things you want to think about when putting in an offer, doing your due diligence. And so you can download that checklist and have something to take away for when you're doing involved in buying your first property.
And be sure to stay with us until the end, where we're going to tell you about a special bonus for attending this masterclass. You have to be attending this masterclass live. So if you're watching a replay, it's not a bonus that you can get. It's only for the people that are here, and we'll show you how to be invited to an exclusive in-person experience. There's a virtual option as well at our Dallas short-term rental.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know Kenji and I'm Letizia, this is Kenji, and we're both hospitalists by training. I'm family medicine trained, he's internal medicine trained, and we started investing together in properties back in 2015. We achieved financial freedom using real estate investing, using exactly what we teach in 3 years. And for us, it was such a massive change in our lives that we just started telling everyone about it. And so that's how we ended up here where we are now. We have a combined 30 years of investing in real estate. Kenji's been investing since 2001. And so he's been through multiple downturns and he's had that experience. He's invested in a wide range of properties. Back in 2001, he was buying student housing, he was buying raw land, he was buying short-term rentals in 2008. So he's done a lot of things. And we started investing together in 2015. We started with really small properties. We didn't have a whole lot of money when we started out, and we bought duplexes, we bought fourplexes. but we were so focused on getting to financial freedom through using real estate that we put every dollar into it, and we recycled all our tax savings back into it. And we've grown our portfolio through a lot of 1031 exchanging. We now own over 150 units. We're also general partners on an additional 424 units. So that's leading syndications. We have broad experience of with rentals, long-term rentals, commercial properties, short-term rentals. We own in multiple states. So we have a lot of experience across a lot of different parts of real estate. And real estate really gave us the lifestyle we dreamed of: more time with our family, more time for travel. That's why we're so passionate about it, and so passionate about it for physicians and high-income professionals.
All right, and we've taught over 3,000 doctors and high-income professionals. So if you're a high-income professional, you're not a doctor, we have also taught high-income professionals as well. And we've taught them how to invest in long-term rentals, mid-term rentals, short-term rentals, and many have already achieved financial freedom. I did want to point out that in our community, we also invite people to bring their spouses. We really encourage that. So there's a really nice mix of doctors and other high-income professionals and spouses who have different professions.
And this is our standard disclaimer. Basically, we're not financial advisors, we're not lawyers, we're not CPAs. And so if you need kind of tax, financial, personal, legal, investment advice, that you should go to your expert. This is more for fun only. Okay, so I think a lot of you are probably feeling uncertain about your finances. I know that we've been through like the COVID downturn. We've been investing through 2008. Kenji was investing in that time, and he definitely felt uncertain about his finances. So I think a lot of that comes from the fact that a lot of your wealth as doctors, as high-income professionals, we're always advised to put all of our money in 401k, and that's what's going to feed us when we're older. But it's really concentrated in the stock market. And I think that people assume the stock market's going to be in the right position at the right time when they happen to be in the position to retire, but that's not always the case. And so when the stock market does fall, your net worth drops and you have no control over it.
The other big thing is that inflation has been out of control. It's been really high, and what that means is that your money is worth less. You can buy less with the same amount of money that you have, and so that is really shrinking your wealth whenever there's inflation.
You also, as I mentioned, have no control over your money, right? When it's in the stock market, it's ultimately decisions of CEOs of major companies that are deciding what your stock is worth in their decision making. So you're not in control. And I think a lot of us feel helpless because we see the stock market going on and there's nothing we're supposed to do. We're just supposed to sit there and watch it. And I think a lot of you probably want to build another source of income and have generational wealth, but you just don't know how, right? Because the only thing we're taught is put your money in your 401k. There aren't any other options out there. And the other solution you know of as doctors is put your head down and work harder, pick up moonlighting shifts, do more time in the hospital. That's how we are all kind of raised in the culture of medicine.
All right. And why build another source of income with rentals? Well, it's going to decrease that concentration risk, right? If all of your income, your wealth is tied to your job and making an income, what if something happens to that job? And I think a lot of doctors were pretty surprised during COVID when their incomes were actually impacted. I think a lot of us assumed that we had recession-proof jobs, but we didn't have COVID-proof jobs, right? So a lot of people felt that concentration risk. And so what you want to do is you want to diversify your income sources. And one great way to do that is with rental properties, whether it's long-term rentals or short-term rentals. You also want to have something that's uncorrelated with the stock market. And that's the great thing about real estate. It can go up when the stock market goes down. And in fact, for us, how we're buying rental properties, we are excited about the recession and the downturn. When stocks go down, there's a lot of fear on the streets, and people will be selling their properties at a significant loss, at a significant discount, which is a huge benefit for real estate investors who know what they're doing. Real estate can also be an inflation hedge. In times of inflation, commodities are going up, and Your house is a commodity, real estate is a commodity. So real estate also tends to go up as inflation goes up. So you're at least tracking it.
Yeah, and the other thing is with it being an inflation hedge, if you have a mortgage on your property and your mortgage is, let's say, even at 5 or 6%, but inflation's at 8%. So you're actually doing better over time with your mortgage than if you just had the cash sitting in the stock market or sitting in a bank account.
Real estate is a tangible real asset. And for some people, they might say, well, that's not a reason to invest. Well, you kind of want to know sometimes what you're investing in. It's kind of nice to know that when you buy something, it's actually physically there and it's something real, not something that's made out of paper or just made up some algorithm. So that's why a lot of people like to invest in real estate, or at least have that in their portfolio.
And the value is not going to go to zero. A stock can go to zero any day, but the property of your building and your land is not going to go to zero.
When you know how to invest in rental properties, you're in control, right? You can decide when to sell. You can decide to do a cash out refi and pull some money out. You ultimately, it's not somebody else making those decisions for you. And then the last one is, it doesn't involve you working harder in your day job. Ultimately, once you get a rental property up and running, it can be very, very passive. All right. So why own cash flowing rentals or income producing properties? Well,
there are a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
It's really, you make a lot of money a lot of different ways. And I think people probably hear about cash flow, and cash flow is basically the money you're making every single month after you pay all expenses. So when we're looking at cash flow, we're working in property management fees, we're working in property taxes, we're working in vacancy and maintenance costs. So the cash flow is what you end up with in your pocket every single month. And we love cash flow. It's ultimately what sets you free. So it's really, really important, but it's actually only a very small amount of what you're making in the property if you do it right. Cash flow is not led to the great increases in our net worth. It's actually other pieces. Renters paying down your mortgage is a little bit. It's usually 2 to 3% of your return. It's money you don't actually see because it's going to the bank, but it actually is building up your net worth. And as you get more and more properties, renters paying down your mortgage becomes very, very significant. I remember looking at our numbers maybe 3 or 4 years in, the renters were paying $45,000 worth of our mortgages every year. And again, that's not money we felt, but it was ultimately money adding to our net worth.
Next one is immediate appreciation. And this is getting a property at a discount. So buying it less than market value. And over the last several years, when the market was really hot, you might think, oh, there's no way you can get a property at a discount. But that's not true at all. If you know what you're doing, you're able to get properties at a discount. And especially now with this time, when going into a recession, there's going to be even more opportunities for immediate appreciation. And that's how you make money on the day that you buy the property. Is you buy it right, you buy it at a discount, and you have that instant equity.
Forced appreciation is the one that we're most passionate about. It's how we've grown our net worth so substantially. And so basically what it is each rental property is worth more to the next investor if you make it produce more money. So if you increase the income or you decrease expenses, now that property is making you more cash flow, it's worth more when you go to sell it. And so what we do is we try to force appreciation on any property we buy, even if it's a short-term rental, mid-term rental, whatever it is, we're going to be forcing appreciation. We're going to look for ways to improve the property, to be able to make it a nicer place to live for people, to make it more attractive short-term rental, to increase bookings. And we're also going to look at decreasing expenses. We're going to look at how we can reduce water costs. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But again, if you can increase how much money that property makes, it is worth more to the next investor.
Tax savings is another big component of return, and that is real estate is tax advantaged. Whether or not you shelter your income with it, there are ways that you can shelter your income, and those are going to be the best tax benefits. But even if you don't have something called real estate professional status, or you're taking advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole, those are two ways that you can use to shelter your income. Even if you don't have that, real estate is still tax advantaged. You're going to be able to lower your tax rate with real estate. And if you have any passive income, you're going to be able to shelter that income with your real estate, again, without that real estate professional status or the short-term rental tax loophole. And this can be very, very significant. And then the last one is market appreciation. That's not bolded there because it's not something that we count on. We count on immediate appreciation. We count on forced appreciation happening because we control that. But market appreciation is something that we don't control, but we don't count on it. But if it happens, it's great, and you can really grow your wealth significantly with market appreciation if it happens. But again, we don't rely on it.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about market appreciation is that's what all of you are relying on with your 401ks and your stock market. You're hoping things are going to appreciate and that it's going to be in a great situation when you go to retire. But you can see this is the one thing we aren't betting on with real estate is market appreciation. We have so many other ways we make money that market appreciation is icing on the cake when it happens. We don't need it to happen, right? Because we have that cash flow. We have our renters paying down our mortgage. We're buying really good deals. We're making money day one. We're forcing appreciation also in our control. And then we're harvesting those tax savings. And all of that, even with one property, can easily go over 100K in a year.
Yeah, this is actually a picture of our 32 unit that we bought when we took 3 properties and 1030. We used something called a 1031 exchange to buy this property, and we hit on each of these things in a very significant way.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So why is cash flow so important? Well, I kind of hit on it. It's the money going into your pocket every month. And why that's so important is because when you think about it, you need that monthly income coming in to support you and your family. And so cash flow is what can replace your clinical income or the income from your day job once it gets substantial enough. And that really allows you to work in medicine or work at your day job by choice, because you don't need to. Stock market doesn't give you cash flow, right? This is what gives you cash flow is real estate. And so that's why it's so valuable to people. And so it ultimately for us, we always buy for cash flow because we want to be able to replace our incomes. Cash flow also allows you to get through market fluctuations. So we're going into a recession. If you have a property that's cash flowing, even if it loses value, you can continue to have it because there's no need to sell it. It's cash flowing. You continue to just sit there and make the cash flow. And when it gains value back at that point, if you want to, you can sell it. So this is also another important piece about cash flow is it really is a risk mitigation, and it helps you get through tough times in the market or tough times in an individual property when something breaks down, for example.
All right. One thing we wanted to point out is that with all the things going on with the economy, you might think, well, is this a good time to get into this, right? And we wanted to emphasize that you can buy cash flowing rentals in any market. It doesn't matter if it's a hot market like it's been the last several years, or in a time when we're going into a downturn like we are now. And so we actually think that there's actually even more opportunity going into a downturn because the real estate market is inefficient at baseline. There's something called an off-market deal, which allows you to get something that's not available to anybody. It's just available to you because of your relationship. And that's how you can get these tremendous deals. That 32 unit was valued at $4 million. We bought it for $3 million. So that's, and we were the only buyers, right? That's an inefficient market because if it were publicly available to everybody, then it would have sold for $4 million.
But it's like a stock.
Yeah.
Right.
But we bought it for $3 million because we had an inside relationship with an agent who had an inside relationship with a wholesaler.
We also wanted to bring up sticking to your cash and cash criteria. So in the last couple of years, we've been in a really hot market, and we can't tell you how many times we've been asked, should I lower my cash and cash criteria? What if I buy a property that is neutral or just a little bit negative? Like it's going to be okay, right? Well, again, the cash flow is what sets you free, but also cash flow gets you through tough times, because if you buy something that doesn't cash flow, then you have a liability on your hand. You don't have an asset, you have a liability. And so even in the last year, 2021, when things were at hottest, we were still really encouraging our students to continue to stick to their cash and cash criteria. Only buy good deals and not buy bad deals that were going to get them in trouble down the road because they didn't cash flow. So even in this market, we're still looking for cash flow and sticking to our cash and cash criteria. And, you may hear from us in a year and we might be saying, actually, we're increasing our cash and cash criteria a little bit more because there's so many opportunities we can afford to be even pickier.
Yeah. And then remember that there are many other ways to make money other than cash flow. So you want to take advantage of things like forced appreciation. We talked about how forced appreciation is actually how we built the majority of our wealth. And then the tax savings, if you can be tax efficient, take home more of that paycheck, you are going to grow your wealth that much faster. So remember to take advantage of those other aspects, other pieces, immediate appreciation also you want to take advantage of as well.
And then what we do is we buy a property and we're focusing on how to increase the cash flow from day one. So I wanted to give you some examples through here. So you not only see our example, but other people. And so this is one of our students, Elisa Krim. She took Zero to Freedom in spring of 2020. She has mostly focused on short-term rentals. So she has 6 short-term rentals now and 5 long-term rental doors. She's bought in multiple states. She's taken advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole because she works full-time. Her portfolio generates multiple 6 figures in cash flow every single year. And she self-manages all of her short-term rentals remotely. And again, she took advantage of those, the short-term rental tax loophole, flying to her properties, doing 100 hours and more than anyone else, and then doing 500 hours across her portfolio to be able to harvest hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax savings on top of that too.
Yeah, and she is a busy professional. She's a full-time GI doctor. She's a medical director of her IBD clinic. She's got 4 children, and she
did this all herself. Her spouse was
yeah.
not really involved. And so that's also a good time to point out that a lot of people in our community, they may have a supportive spouse, but it's not a spouse who wants to participate. That's okay. That's very, very common. And then we have a lot of people who are single doing it themselves. And then we have a lot of people who are actually doing it themselves because their spouse is actively against it. So we have the wide range of people in this community. Okay, so number 2 we mentioned was renters paying down your mortgage. And so when you're cash flowing, when you're making profit every month, the renters are paying down your mortgage every single month. And I mentioned this is about 2 to 3% of your overall return, but it adds up to a significant amount across your portfolio. And even with the individual property, I think that 32 unit that we mentioned, it's about 45,000 itself that people are paying down every single year for us. So it really does add up a lot.
Really add up. Yep.
Yeah, and this is one of our short-term rentals, and I think this one the renters pay down about 11,000 a year for us. Oh, here are some examples. So you can see purchase price, you can see rehab costs. Again, the forced appreciation on our properties. So we put in money with rehab. Sometimes that can be financed. Sometimes it comes from places like HELOCs or saved up money or borrowing from our 401k or whatever we need to do to make up the rehab cost. But you can see that forced appreciation. We put this in here to show you that the 100,000 that we entitled this masterclass is a joke. It really is. You can make way more than 100,000 in months with forced appreciation, months. And then we put down the debt to pay down for you as well. And then we put the cash flow so you can see how much each property is making a year. And that's including property management, that's including all those other, maintenance and vacancy and everything. And then you can see the cash and cash return. So the money that we put in, how much return are we having for our money each year in cash flow? Okay, so the cash and cash return only reflects cash flow. It doesn't reflect the tax savings. It doesn't reflect the forced depreciation, and it doesn't reflect the debt pay down either. It only reflects the cash flow.
Yeah, and we only put a couple of our smaller properties, but we didn't put any of the bigger properties. I was looking at the numbers for our 32 unit actually. With the new rental amounts, we're actually able to increase rents more than we thought. And with the new rental amounts, we're projecting to be about 189,000, almost 200,000 in cash flow from that one property
per year. Okay,
right.
Number 3.
All right,
Go
number
ahead.
3 is immediate appreciation. This is definitely one of my favorites, which is if you, and this is when people say buy it right, you make money on the first day. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the fact that you went out and you bought a property and got it at a discount. And this pictured here is an example of a property that we got at a discount and made money on the day we bought it. And you might be wondering, well, how do you buy it right? And one of the keys is really building a great team. And if you have, for example, an investor savvy agent who can negotiate on your behalf, that's really key. Of course, you're going to be involved in the negotiations, providing them with ammo, providing them with information, ways to negotiate. You're going to give them ideas, but they're a critical team member, and they can sometimes single-handedly negotiate some tremendous deals. You also want to make sure you recognize hidden value. One thing that we didn't mention about the inefficiency of the real estate market is that there's a lot of mistakes that are made by agents on the listing. Like they might leave out a detail like there's a bedroom, like there's an extra bedroom that they didn't count, or even an extra unit. We've seen people buy properties and they show up at the inspection and like they're like, hey, there's an extra unit here, which is a separate rental unit. How could the agent miss that? They'll get the square footage wrong. And they'll also sometimes even undervalue the property. They'll get the wrong comps. And so they'll undervalue the property. And so there's a lot of opportunity for hidden value, which is finding those that inefficiency, those opportunities where you can increase that income that the property generates. Because as we mentioned, if you can increase the income, you can force that appreciation. Get off market deals. Again, this is a relationship game. If you have great relationships, you can get to the top of your agents lists and get those off market deals, and then negotiate. If you know how to negotiate, you can really get amazing deals. Okay, this is an example of one of our students who bought it right. And so this is Weilan. She's a part-time dermatologist, and she's amassed a real estate portfolio of 30 units. She has long-term rentals, she has short-term rentals, and she took our course in winter of 2021. And so she bought a property. It was her first year, very first deal. She bought a 14 unit, and she recognized hidden value in this property. And on top of that, she was able to negotiate a $200,000 discount. And the property was, she initially had it under contract for $970,000, and she actually ended up buying it for $770,000. So a really significant discount.
And remember, this is in 2021.
Yes.
So this is in the hottest market ever. And again, to show you there are inefficiencies in any market. So she obviously got immediate appreciation. Then she went on to force a ton of appreciation. This property is worth over 2 million. I think she told us last we talked to her.
Over 2 million. Yep. She bought it again. She bought it for 770. Yeah.
So you can see again that forced appreciation, how powerful it is. And then of course she had the tax benefits of being real estate professional status. And so she was able to, get huge tax savings in 2021 and again in 2022.
Yeah, and she had zero real estate knowledge before she took our course. And also, did you mention the short-term rental? Yeah, no. So this was in 2022, again, in a hot market. She bought her latest short-term rental with no money down. It was such a good deal. And she was also able to get this great financing, low money down financing, that she was able to ultimately buy the property with no money down.
And forced depreciation, added a bedroom, I'm sure has made well over 6 figures just from that one alone.
Yeah. Okay, and then number 4, you got to make sure you force appreciation. As we mentioned, this is one of the ways that this is actually the way that we built our wealth with forced appreciation. And so the key with forced appreciation is knowing the right property, right? Being able to go into a property like the one you see to the right, this is our short-term rental, and being able to kind of say, okay, how can I redo this so that it's going to create more value? And so one of the things that we did with this property was to rearrange the kitchen, remodel. It was not a very expensive remodel, but we were able to actually increase the value of it much more than the money it took for renovations.
And a lot of it is paint with this property. I mean, it was so much wood around the windows. It just felt like it was stuck in the 70s, painting everything white. You can see we kept the same floors. We didn't even remodel the bathrooms, and we increased the value quite significantly just with this kitchen remodel. Again, you can force hundreds of thousands of dollars in months with forced appreciation. And it allows you to reuse the same money over and over through something called cash out refinances or 1031 exchanges. This is really key because all of us as real estate investors run out of money, and saving up for the next down payment takes a lot of time. But when you force appreciation, you can actually take that money out of that property and put it into your next property. So you reuse the same money, and that's the velocity of money. You're increasing the velocity of money. And that's how a lot of us are able to grow our portfolios so quickly. You saw Elisa, you saw Weilan. Like, how did they get such big portfolios so quickly? Did they start out with millions of dollars? No, they're forcing appreciation. They're using cash out refis. They're 1031 exchanging properties into other properties. And that's how they're growing their portfolio. Forced appreciation also lowers your risk, which is really, really, really key. If you take a property like this one where we bought it for $660 and we put in about $50,000 to rehab it, and suddenly it's worth 900,000, that means if there's a short-term rental ban in the neighborhood, we can afford to sell this property and we're still going to walk away having made money. And so that's the really key about forced appreciation too. When you add that value, it gives you the cushion to not only have more equity in the property, so you're less leveraged, but also to be able to sell it and not come to the table bringing money. And so that's why we always force appreciation. We don't buy turnkey properties that are at market pricing that we can't improve, that somebody else has harvested the forced appreciation.
The other way you're lowering risk for those of you who are worried about being over leveraged with short-term rentals, you can put down 10% a lot of times. And so that's again 90% leverage. And you might think that that's risky, but again, if you force appreciation, then that's going to change that ratio, right? You're going to have a lot more equity in the property, not just 10% equity. You're going to have a lot more equity in that property. Again, that's just another way to mitigate risk. I did just want to pause and say, if you guys have questions that come up, be sure to put it in the Q&A box. We do have time for questions at the end, and we'll take the questions one by one in order. Okay, so how do you force appreciation? Well, there's a whole bunch of ways. I mean, we have a long list of ways to force appreciation, but one of the easiest ways is to find something that is under market rent. And this property here actually was just poorly managed, and you can see it's really dated. But actually, even then, it was under market rent. So it was renting for about 700 to 750, and market rents were about 800, 850 maybe. But there was actually even more room for forced appreciation by renovating it, and there's a renovation premium on top of that. And we projected that we would be able to rent these units. These are just one bedroom, not even 500 square feet, that we projected we would be able to rent for $950 after renovating. But actually what's happened is now, I was just talking about this is our 32 unit. We're actually renting them for over 1,100. We're going for 1,150 right now in rents. So up from the projected 950, we're getting 1,150 on these. Plus, we're billing back utilities on top of that. The previous owner was not billing back utilities.
And I want to point out that we also made this a way better living environment. Mm-hmm. So all these properties that we're talking about forcing appreciation, you're making it a better home for people. You cannot imagine the types of properties we buy and how people are living and how mistreated they are by slumlords. It's horrible. So having a clean, safe environment makes such a difference for the neighborhood and makes such a difference for the tenants you have. And so turning these properties around, it not only is a win for you, it's a win for the community. One of the things I want to point out with this one, we just painted the cabinets. As you can see, we kept the same appliances, but we put in new countertops, we put in new sink, we put in new flooring and new paint and light fixtures, and it makes such a difference. It makes it feel so much better, this property. And we did the external side
exterior
too.
As well, yeah.
In laundry room, we made it so much better.
No, that's a good point. And just to give you a sense of why these things were going for 700, 750 is because the owner did nothing.
He did nothing.
There were roaches in a lot of this, was roach infested. So he would not get pest control. He would not fix anything. One tenant was living with one working outlet and extension cords everywhere. It was crazy. And he just wouldn't fix anything. And so one of the first things that we did, I wrote a letter and I said, hey, if you have issues, problems, something's broken, we'll fix it. And just change the environment and change the community significantly just by taking over new ownership. So, and
I know that's a concern for a lot of people in our community. I also want to point out that a lot of people in our community are doing really unique things with tenants. So we have people doing sober living. We do supported living, where we provide housing for intellectually disabled community members so they can live in neighborhoods. We have a bash housing, where we're providing housing for veterans who were previously homeless. And so there's a lot of opportunity with rental properties to serve a community and help provide a safe, clean living environment for that community, and to be able to really do a lot in helping change the structure of people's lives. So it's really gratifying, not only with the forced appreciation and not only with the net worth building that you're going to be doing for yourself.
Well, we talked about, so let me kind of go back to tapping hidden value. So there's a lot of ways that you can tap hidden value, but I'm going to break it down into three broad categories. The first one is anything that brings in extra income. And so already talked about under market rents. And then we also get a premium for renovated units. But also we charge for parking, we charge for pet rent, charge for coin laundry. Actually, the laundry room was horrible, disgusting. And we completely remodeled it and put in new machines. And just made it people actually went there instead of a laundromat because it wasn't really nice. And so we were able to generate more income there instead of the money going to a laundromat. We've also improved the building. If you can improve the building by, let's say, adding a bedroom or adding a unit, that can force significant appreciation. And a lot of time it's just spotting extra square footage or a unfinished basement with high ceilings. If you can spot that hidden value, not everybody can, right? But if you can spot that, you know what you're looking for, then you can tap that hidden value. And then the last thing is, again, broad category of what you can do to tap hidden values. You can lower expenses. If you can figure out a way to lower expenses, the way we did it with this property is we build back utilities. That's one of the big ways. Also put in energy efficient toilets, energy efficient shower heads, and to reduce water usage on this property. Those are a couple ways that we reduced expenses on this property.
And I want to point out, the pools there, not only for big multifamily, but for short-term rentals, right? Putting in a pool or adding a bedroom in the short-term rentals can make a huge difference. As you saw with our other one, just improving the kitchen can make a huge difference. The last one is lowering expenses, which he kind of talked about.
Yeah, and we spent a little extra time on this because it's such an important concept to really understand about why we invest, right? For forced appreciation. Again, I know we're talking about income producing rentals, but forced appreciation is how you build your wealth. Quickly, right? And we're going to show you here. So Trey here is a professor, so not a physician, but married to a physician. So they completed our course in the spring of 2021, and they have 5 long-term rental units, 2 midterm rentals, and are now part owners of a medical office building.
And I want to point out a midterm rental is oftentimes the same kind of properties you'd have for a long-term rental. It's just furnished and it's provided to corporate housing or traveling nurses or insurance people who have insurance coverage, and insurance is paying for them to live in a place while their house is being fixed up. So usually it's people staying more like 1, 2, 3 months at a time.
And they've forced a lot of appreciation. We'll show you an example. And on top of that, they've generated a lot of tax savings, and their properties are cash flowing really well, well over 20, and I think this one example, over 30%. And we'll show you that. Yeah, so this is the 33% return here. So here's an example of how he forced appreciation, how he spotted it.
And I want to point out to look at the price of the property, because I'm sure people have been thinking, oh, I've got to have millions of dollars to start out. Again, these properties, a lot of what we're buying, they're $150,000, $200,000 properties.
Yeah. So this was mislisted. Well, this was, I wouldn't say mislisted, but there actually was mislisted. There's a mother-in-law unit behind that garage that you can see here. So it's 1 bedroom and 1 bath at the back of that garage. And what he did was he said, wow, this is a huge garage, 2-car garage. I can actually squeeze in an additional 3 bedrooms and a bathroom and make it a 4-bedroom, 2-bath on this side. And there's actually another 4-bedroom, 2 baths on this side. So this is a duplex.
But it was listed as a single family home.
It was listed as a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and they didn't even mention, mention in the description about this mother-in-law. And he realized, hey, this can be a duplex. And so that's what he did. He turned it into 2 4-bedroom apartments. This property was appraised after adding those additional bedrooms and a bathroom. This was appraised for $350,000. And so you can see the other thing that he did was he also got a corporate housing for this. He wasn't necessarily planning on it, but there was an opportunity to do corporate housing. And so this is now a midterm rental, and he's making a lot more cash flow. And you can see that his monthly gross income on a duplex is $5,600, $2,800 on each side. And so that's 33% cash on cash return. And then what he did was he actually did a cash out refi and pulled the money out, pulled his entire investment out, so that it lowered the cash flow somewhat, but he was able to get all his money out and then recycle that money again. And we call that the velocity of money. You're taking that same money and reusing it. and so that your money works a lot harder and faster for you. That's why we call it the velocity of money. Anything else? No? All right, so number 5, we talked about the benefits of harvesting those tax savings, and we wanted to show you an example. This is again that 32 unit that we showed you earlier, and this is the actual cost segregation study. And what it shows you is that we created a bonus depreciation expense. So we created an expense of $836,000 on this property, which essentially equated to about an $830,000 loss on our tax returns. And so we're able to shelter $836,000 worth of income. And you might be like, well, I don't make $863,000. Well, if you don't use all of it, you can carry it forward and shelter future W-2 or 1099 income. And so this is a huge benefit. This one property generated this huge loss. And if we didn't do this cost segregation study, it would have just been a $70,000 loss. But because we did this cost segregation study, we're able to accelerate the depreciation and create an $836,000
and take it more of
loss.
it in year 1. And this is really important. This is why so many people get excited about short-term rentals too, because if you're participating in the short-term rental and you're able to shelter active income with your losses, if you do a cost segregation study and you really just front load your losses to that first year, you can use even one short-term rental to shelter a lot. I was on a call, I guess on Sunday, and there was a student who was sheltering all of her family medicine income, 400,000 actually worth of income from her and her husband in 1 year with one short-term rental. And so the opportunity to use cost segregation to shelter income from taxes can make a huge difference. And that in itself can reflect 6 figures in tax savings. And there are many, many examples of people doing that in our community.
And even if you don't understand these terms, don't worry. That what you have to know is that with real estate, you can create these paper losses. They're not real losses. We didn't lose 836,000. We didn't spend that much money, but the government allows us to treat that as a paper expense, an expense on paper to generate a loss on our tax returns. And
I think the other thing to know is not only you get that from purchasing the property, but when you rehab the property, you're writing off a lot of losses there too. So I think of it as the government's paying for part of my rehab, which is crazy, but very true.
okay, and we mentioned that whether or not you have this special status called real estate professional or the short-term rental tax loophole, there's still benefits for everyone. And so the first benefit is that your cash flow is generally sheltered from taxes. So let's say that you make $200,000 in cash flow and you're not paying any taxes on that, and you make $200,000 W-2. Well, when you combine that, you're making $400,000, but half of it is not taxed, it's taxed at 0. And therefore the blended rate is you've cut your taxes in half.
And this is even without doing that cost segregation study, because what you saw in that last slide was there was a certain amount you were able to write off your taxes every single year. And so if you're not active participant in your rental properties, you're being more of a passive investor, you have your property manager doing everything, but you still want to access some of the tax savings, you really have this opportunity to just use that straight line depreciation and shelter a lot of the income coming in from your property and lower your overall effective tax rate.
Also, the losses, if you're not a real estate professional or short-term rental tax loophole, these losses are passive and they can be used to shelter passive gain. So if you have, let's say, income from a surgical center, like an investment, passive investment in a surgical center, or a passive investment in syndication, you can use your rental properties to shelter that passive income. And if you don't use it, you don't lose them. You can carry them forward to future year, or if the property sells, you can use it at that time. And then all investors have access to 1031 exchanges. You can grow your wealth tax deferred. If you increase the value of the property and you want to take all that gain and put it into another property, you can do that in a way where you don't pay taxes along the way. You can defer those taxes to a later time when you sell that final property. And
or pass it to your kids.
Or pass it to your kids, that's right, yeah. And this is our 42 unit here, right after our paint job. It was really, really ugly beige. And we used a 1031 exchange. We sold a couple properties 1031 them into this property. We forced a lot of appreciation on those two properties. Then we 1031 into this property. We own this one outright. We didn't raise any money. And this created a huge tax savings for us as well. And
forced appreciation.
And forced a ton of appreciation.
On this one
Yeah,
too.
ton of appreciation on this property as well. All right. And if you're an active investor, and if you're like we said, real estate professional or short-term rental tax loophole, you can shelter your W-2 or 1099 income. And one question that we often get is, well, what happens in the second year of your property? You used up all that depreciation. What happens in the second year? Well, you don't lose all that depreciation. You still have some depreciation left, and you still have a considerable amount of depreciation. And so your cash flow is still going to be largely sheltered using that depreciation. You might have, some positive income if you have something like a short-term rental and you're making a lot of income on your short-term rental, then you will be taxed on that income, but a lot of it will be sheltered.
And a lot of people at that point, they just buy another property and they use that to generate even more losses to shelter their income from their short-term rental that's cash flowing too much to be sheltered, plus again, apply it to their W-2 income. And so what you'll find is most real estate investors, we're buying every single year because we want to keep harvesting this tax savings, and we want to keep growing our cash flow, and we love increasing our net worth.
Yep. And you can still 1031 exchange as an active investor, just like as if you're a non-active investor. And this is an example of a short-term rental from one of our students, a beautiful property. They did a really amazing job with it. And yeah, who wouldn't want to see them?
Yep.
All right. Yeah. And they created they're both working full time, and they created a nice tax shelter with this. Okay. And so this is a couple more of our students, Jen and Raf. They completed Zero to Freedom in summer of 2020. Within 9 months, they had 120,000 of cash flow coming in per year. They currently own 9 multifamily properties, 3 short-term rentals for a total of 60 units. And a lot of that they bought with very low money down loans. They actually developed a relationship with a local community bank, and they were able to buy a lot of their properties for 10% down. And remember negotiation, right? They negotiated a lot of seller credits. So in a lot of cases, they were able to buy properties, like they bought this one $350,000 property for about $9,000. And so
yeah, and he works full time, and
Yep.
she, the first year they started investing, she actually quit her family medicine job, became real estate professional, and then ended up opening up a medical aesthetics office. And so ended up buying that as well in the real estate portfolio. And now they're using short-term rentals to shelter taxes because they're both working full time.
Jen went back to working full time in her medical aesthetics practice, and Ralph has always been working full time. So yeah, so now they bought a couple short-term rentals to shelter their income.
But when you think about why we're all doing this, most of us are doing it to spend more time with our families and to be able to contribute in a greater way. And in this case, Jen was able to work at a job she loves, run her own business, and Ralph was able to cut back his call shifts on the weekends.
He changed, yeah. He was able to switch jobs and significantly reduce. Well, actually, he eliminated weekend call. So
Yeah.
that was a huge change and an improvement for their family dynamics and family life. All right. So what's the first step for you? This is a picture in New York, one of our New York meetups, and it was a great group. Actually, I think I see some people here who were there, but yeah, anyway, we have a great community, really awesome individuals. All right, so what are your options here? So option one, this is you can spend years figuring it out on your own, making mistakes along the way. I think it's inevitable that you're going to make some mistakes along the way, but you have an alternative, right? You don't have to figure it out on your own. There is all this information there's so much information out there. In fact, I would say that there's too much information. And I think that's part of the reason why it takes so long, is because you're kind of trying to sift through all that information and figure out what is the relevant information, what matters and what doesn't, right? You have to kind of sift through that. And I think that's one of the reasons. So option two is to really condense down that time to learn the things that you need to know, the valuable things, the most important things, and do it with mentorship and a community. You saw the picture before. of our community. It's a tremendous community, and build your portfolio faster with fewer mistakes. And that's really the value proposition here is do it faster, right? Don't let it take years and years, more years than you have to, and do it with fewer mistakes. And some of these mistakes can be extremely costly. And so we're going to invite you to our course here, which is called Zero to Freedom, Cashflowing Mental Mastery. And this is a course that we developed based on my decades of experience investing in real estate, making my mistakes along the way. I was investing through the downturns, multiple downturns, so have that experience as well. I know that a lot of people out there don't have that type of long experience investing through the worst real estate downturn in 2008. So that's definitely something important you want to think about is does who you're learning from, do they have that experience? And
then our experience of doing this together
yeah.
and achieving financial freedom in 3 years, and the path that it took, and now the path that many, many others have walked, and many who have achieved financial freedom now.
And let's talk about what will Zero to Freedom do. Well, one really important thing when we said buy it right, one of the ways that you buy it right is you have to predict how the property is going to perform before you buy it. And the way you do that is to learn how to use a cash on cash calculator really well. And you might be going like, oh, that's simple. You just, plug in some numbers, but it's where do you get those numbers, right? That really matters, right? How accurate are those numbers? And so you really have to learn how to analyze properties using a cash on cash calculator and get really good at it. We'll help you choose a market. Some people get stuck at this step for years. And we know people even now who are stuck choosing a market. They want to invest locally, but they live in a high cost of living market, and they're scared of investing long distance, right? And so they never get past this step. So choosing a market will help you with that step. We'll also help you get that right team in place. One of the keys we talked about earlier in terms of getting great deals is having the right team, having the right agents, having the right property manager, and we'll help you build those team members and really cut down the time that it takes you to evaluate team members and test them out. We'll shortcut that by essentially handing you those team members. We'll help you avoid mistakes and learn how to succeed in any market. Doesn't matter if it's up or down or sideways. As we said, the strategy that we're teaching you doesn't matter what market it is. The strategy is sound in any market. And you also learn how to force hundreds of thousands of dollars in appreciation, right? We showed you so many examples of how people forced appreciation in their properties. And we said that that's the way we built our wealth. You'll learn how to mitigate risk. One of the most important things that we've learned from one of our mentors, Keith Cunningham, who is the real rich dad from Rich Dad Poor Dad. He's one of our mentors, and he teaches this risk mitigation framework, something that we'll be teaching you as well. You'll learn how to implement real estate tax saving strategies. We talked about REPS, real estate professional status, and the short-term rental tax loophole. You'll learn how to accelerate the growth of your real estate portfolio so you can build wealth faster. That's the fast fire system, right? Not the slow fire system, but the fast fire system, which is achieving financial freedom while you're still young enough to enjoy it, while your kids are still young and you're not, hobbling around. Learn how to negotiate and get a haircut. We talked about negotiating like a boss, right? We're going to teach you how to do that. And we surround you with a supportive community of like-minded doctors, their families, and other high-income professionals. Yes, you can do this alone, but I'll tell you right now, it's a lot better to surround yourself with a community. It's a lot more fun, and right,
and they help you avoid mistakes.
They help you avoid mistakes. Right. That's right. All right, and Zero to Freedom is unlike anything else out there. That's a proven system. Like we said, we've taught over 3,000 doctors. We've had so many examples of success. Every summer, we do something called the Fast Fire to Freedom Summit. And that's where we do example after example of students who have gone out there and done some amazing things. I'm really excited for this summer's conference. It's going to be awesome. We're going to do some really cool things, even cover some international rentals as well. Taught by two doctors who have combined 30 years of real estate investing experience. As I mentioned, how many people out there do you know who have actually invested in the 2001 downturn and the 2008 downturn and and actually survived and are still investing. And we are still actively investing. We are very active. We own 150 of our own units. We mentioned we are also general partners in over 400 units, syndicated units. One of the things that Zero to Freedom, what we do is we have so many people who've gone through our course who have had success that we bring them back to be our coaches and mentors. And coaches do something called open office hours, where you can go in and do extra sessions with them. And so you're going to get really that hands-on support. And we also have a number of people who volunteer because they want to help. And they are such an amazing resource. They were in your shoes 6 months, 12 months ago. And they're, again, like I said, they're just volunteering. Elisa, we mentioned Elisa, the GI doctor, who is also the medical director of an IBD clinic. She's volunteered to be a mentor despite her busy schedule, just because she loves it. She loves helping.
Waylon's actually a mentor.
Waylon is a mentor
there are
too.
a lot of really great mentors who have a lot of experience to share.
Yep. We have over 1,500 students who stay with us in our membership site. So when you finish Zero to Freedom, one of the bonuses we'll talk about is you get 60 days free in our membership site, and a lot of them stay on and continue to stick with us. You get regular content, community. We'll talk more about Empire Builders in a little bit. And then a lot of students, as we mentioned, have achieved that financial freedom, and they've done it quickly. A lot faster than we actually have, and I think it's just because they've taken what we've learned over the years, and they didn't have to learn it by experience. They didn't have to make the mistakes to learn it. They were able to build on our experience and then just leapfrog us.
And they had a community. We didn't have a community when we started. We were by ourselves, and we didn't have other people to say, hey, people investing in Dallas, who are you using as your property manager? Who's your contractor? We didn't have any of those resources. Our community has those resources. They share the resources. We are really focused on abundance, and we share with each other our contacts. And that's part of keeping each other out of trouble and helping each other grow faster and go farther.
All right. So we're going to share with you. Yeah. So share with you a video here, and just see here. Okay, so hopefully you guys can hear this, but it's just a short 3-minute video, and just share some testimonials from our students. And so let me just play that.
The course was life-changing because I now know that I can use real estate to obtain that financial and time freedom.
The best kind of growth has been me as a person, having a new identity as someone who can build an empire.
So my name is Kenji Asakura. I am a physician.
Alexander Nguyen. I am a psychiatrist.
I'm Gretchen Green. I'm a radiologist.
I'm an OB hospitalist.
I'm Manya Cooperstock, a family medicine doctor.
Hi, I'm Subhasit Acharji. I'm an interventional cardiologist.
So I'm Melissa. This is my husband, Ben.
Hi, I'm Jamil Santos, and this is my wife, Rachel.
This course had everything you could possibly want to know about real estate.
In the course really gives a foundation on how to run the numbers, how to evaluate properties.
Able to analyze, figure out what we wanted, figure out where we needed to be, as well as the mindset piece.
I was completely anti-real estate. Instead, it's been nothing but growth since that point.
Zero to Freedom is 2 things. One is the strategies and the mindset also, which really the course digs deep into.
Yeah, even during the course, we're able to get under contract for our first property. And basically, we went from 0 property to 7 within 6 months.
15-unit, multifamily and single family. My portfolio consists of long-term rental, short-term, and mid-term rental.
For Zero to Freedom, we had 4 units, and now we have 25 units.
We now own 6 properties in Phoenix, 21 doors. In addition to, we still have our primary home.
Since doing semi-retired, I have invested in 3 buildings, including a full 16 units across 2 marketplaces, essentially doubled the value of my investment.
You can have other real estate mentors and everything, but you realize very quickly that there's a sense of camaraderie being a physician and being able to learn from physicians.
You're signing up for coaching, you're signing up for a community of supporting and like-minded physicians where trying to be rich is not looked down upon. You're not judged.
Having that community can tell you, hey, it's going to be all right, has just empowered me.
That give you that support. That's something that you will not find any other places.
Don't hesitate.
Take it. You won't regret it.
What's the worst that can happen?
Highly recommended.
You start from there.
You will not regret.
No.
Just take all of the courses.
Just sign up for it.
I would absolutely recommend.
Get this course. It's totally worth it.
We wish we did it sooner. I highly recommend the course.
You have to do it, and this is the best money you will ever invest.
All right. So we'll kind of walk through some of the features, and we will get to the Q&A. We'll also share what that bonus is in a few minutes. So Zero to Freedom has 7 pre-recorded modules. You're going to get lifetime access to this, and of course, it covers a strategy, right? But it also covers mindset, and that's a really big. You heard in the video people talking about mindset, how important it is. And I've seen some of the questions already, and you're kind of wondering, how can you do this? When we have busy schedules and it's so overwhelming. Well, that's where the mindset comes in, right? Is how do you do it? How do you do it without being overwhelmed? And so also give you the tools for being achieving success. And one of the ways that we are able to, you're able to do this without it being overwhelming is that we drip out the modules one week at a time, and so we pace it. So we're not throwing all this information at you once. We're giving you the information you need in week 1. You do a little bit of homework. Week 2, we give you some more information. You do a little bit of homework. Again, the course is designed in a way where you can learn this despite being full-time, busy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we've had, again, thousands of people go through this course and be successful, even working full-time, even having kids, even having all the responsibilities a lot of you have on your plates. It's totally doable. We chunk it down into, and it's not like 10 hours of videos a week. It's more like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
I think that's why you're here, right? Like we get it, right? We understand what your schedule is like. We were, back in 2015, like full-time hospitals, both of us full-time hospitals. We had to set aside what we call LACA days, our initials, LAK days, and just to have days together. And it might have been like 4 days a month, right? And on top of that, I had a startup despite working full-time as a hospitalist. She was working doing OB and teaching on top of her full-time hospitalist job. So we were extremely busy. So we get it. And in that context, we started investing in real estate. So like I said, that's why we developed the course, and we developed it in a way that we did. Of course, we're going to have access to worksheets, a lot of downloads that'll help you in your journey. Mentorship, you heard mentorship, coaching, community, all of that. We have all that in this course. We're going to be, we mentor you. We're your mentors. We have hired 3 alumni coaches, and then we also talked about the mentors, the volunteer mentors. We have weekly live Q&As with us, and then weekly open office hours with our team of alumni coaches. That's every week. And then also we have this great support in a Facebook group, and that's where you can post your questions. You can read other people's questions, and you can tag any of us, the coaches or mentors, to get answers to your questions. And again, remember, somebody has done all of this before you, maybe 6 months, maybe 12 months, maybe 3 years ago. And in our case, maybe, 20 some years ago, right? So we've all done any question that you have. It's likely that there is some experience in the room with that exact question. And why go try to figure it out when you can just ask somebody, hey, what was your experience in developing your asset protection plan, right? What was your experience getting a residential loan, right? We've done it, we can tell you. We also have an exclusive access of long-term and short-term rental agents covering over 2,000 cities in 46 states. This is one of the best benefits, I think, of this course. It will shortcut the time for you to start getting deals. because we have great agents. And then, of course, if you're interested in CME, if that's something that's important to you, there's an opportunity to earn 10 CME credits with this course.
Before we get to this,
Yeah.
I probably should have mentioned this course is completely refilmed. So
Oh, yeah.
we are refilming this time around. And I know there are some alumni here are probably considering the reboot. And so, yes, this course is completely refilmed this time around. And gosh, it's even better than it was before. I know we're both really excited to roll out the new version.
Yeah, you're the first class getting this new version. But one thing I wanted to mention was, let's say 2 years from now, we refilm it again. You will get the new version at that time, right? After we refilm it, everybody gets the new version. Again, you have lifetime access, so you're going to continue to get upgraded versions of the course over time. But this class is the first group going through this new content. All right, and there's a number of bonuses associated with when you buy this course. The first one is probably one of our most popular. It's called a Backstage Pass, and it's a complete walkthrough of our real estate portfolio. And we go into everything. We give you our insights about each property. We also include the mistakes that we've made. And yes, we've made mistakes, and you'll see how we've incorporated those mistakes and those lessons into the course, because why not, right? We want to make sure you don't make those same mistakes. We've made those mistakes so you don't have to. Bonus number 2 is, I mentioned earlier that we have something called a membership site, and we have over 1,500 members in our Facebook community. And that is both community and ongoing content. And it's the type of content, it's content that you need after you finish Zero to Freedom, right? Zero to Freedom teaches you how to confidently buy that first rental property. But what in Empire Builders, we teach you how to go from that one rental property to building your empire. And you can only get into Empire Builders if you've taken one of our courses, either Zero to Freedom or our short-term rental course, Accelerating Wealth.
I want to say that that's effectively means that you have about eight weeks, almost 7 weeks, depending on when you sign up in Zero to Freedom, and then you have an additional 8 weeks. So you really have about 4 months of support when you buy this course with people answering your questions. And so even if you get, a week behind or 2 weeks behind, it's no big deal. You've got, an extra 2 months of people supporting you after the course ends.
Bonus number 3 is our module on the tax benefits of real estate investing. And you'll get this actually as soon as you sign up. This one goes into all the different things that we already talked about with real estate professional status, short-term rental tax loophole, and some other advanced
in much
topics.
more depth.
Yeah, much
so
more
you
depth.
Actually know how to use it, and you can go to your CPA and ask them and go in with a strong bias and ask really great questions to make sure that you get the right advice that suits what you want to do.
Yeah, that's where you'll learn all these terms that if you didn't understand what those terms are, that's when you're going to learn it. All right, of course, we have a risk-free guarantee. I think it's a really generous one, which is that, just if it's not what you expected, just send us an email by February 22nd, and we'll refund your entire payment. And then here's the price. You can make one payment of $35.99 or 4 payments of $9.99, and use this link here. And our team can put the link in the chat, so you can click on it and sign up. And one last thing before we get to the questions is wanted to give you the details of the bonus. So you must have attended and purchased Zero to Freedom during this masterclass in order to get this bonus. And this is what we call our short-term rental experience. And this experience will take place on February 18th, 2023, where we will invite you to an in-person 4-hour experience. It includes a tour of our short-term rental. We also are going to do some exclusive content. There's going to be some networking and a lot of fun. And so there is going to be a virtual option for those who can't make it, so you can still get the value. But just wanted to offer this additional bonus for those of you who attended today and also purchased during this masterclass.
Yeah, and this is in Dallas. This is our short-term rental in Dallas.
Yeah, so easily accessible for anybody. All right, let's get to our Q&A. I see a lot of questions. Awesome. I'm really happy about that. So let's get to the questions. And okay, Yuli. Yuli asked, do you recommend new construction to start for investment? So So Yuli, I think when we think about the different ways you can make money with real estate, one of the biggest ways we talked about was forcing appreciation. And so with new construction, there's going to be less opportunity to force that appreciation. And if you think about it, you're oftentimes you're buying at a retail price. And what we're doing is we're looking to buy these properties at a discount, right? At more of a wholesale price. And so we want to get something where we make that immediate appreciation, we're able to negotiate a discount. And on top of that, we're also forcing appreciation. And new construction, yeah, sure, it might cash flow, but you're not going to get, and you're going to be able to have your renters pay down your mortgage, but you're going to probably miss out on some of those other elements like immediate appreciation, forced appreciation. You might get some market appreciation, you might not, it depends, but you can't count on it. And so, yeah, you're going to get,
and you get the tax,
and you get the tax benefits. Yeah. So you're going to miss out on two of the benefits, but I think two of the really more substantial benefits. All right.
Yeah, and I also want to say we primarily invest in BC class properties. So those are not the fanciest, high-rise apartment buildings. We're investing in properties that are going to do well during the recession. So when the recession really hits and people are looking to downsize and they're looking to spend less money per month on their rents, they're going to move out of the $3,000 and $4,000 a month rentals, and they're going to move into our places that are renting for $1,100 a month, right? And so that's part of our strategy for doing well during downtimes, is to not have the fanciest properties on the block, in the potential space.
In a neighborhood, or
we have
city?
we have the nicest properties in the neighborhood. We fix
Yeah.
our properties up and they're really, really nice, but we're not buying in downtown Seattle in an A-class high rise with a doorman, right? We're buying the property that's, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes outside of Seattle. That's a 1980s build that is renting for less, that we know we're going to do well no matter what the market does.
Mash has a question. If you show a loss from your real estate investment on your tax return, doesn't that hurt you when you go buy your next property and you need
Great
financing? Great question. Maybe, but usually not. If you're working with a investor-friendly lender who understands that the losses are paper losses, and what they do is they will take them out and they will look at the actual income after removing those paper losses. And so again, yeah, it's just something you have to know, you have to know how to go find these lenders. One of the things that we do is we introduce you to lenders who understand this. And
our lender, our residential lender. And
our residential lender and commercial lenders who understand this. And so again, shortcut the time that it's going to take for you to figure this out and find those lenders.
Yeah.
Okay, Chichi, those cost
And
segregation.
a lot of our students, they close on multiple properties at the same time. This is very common in our community, is to be able to show massive losses. We didn't pay income taxes for 7 years. It looked like we were making zero in money, and we're still buying multiple properties at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Chichi, those cost segregation only apply to short-term rental. No, you can do cost segregation studies. You saw that example of the 32 unit. You can do it on a duplex. You can do it on a single family home. You can do it on really any part. You can do it on a medical office building. So you can do it on any building that has a structure, I guess.
Yeah, and we should mention that too. We have a fair amount of people in our community buying medical office buildings, being able to shelter income from their practices with their depreciation from their medical office buildings. So there's a lot of really cool things that people are doing that are different than you might think about a duplex or a fourplex. They're doing a lot of different things.
Yeah. Anonymous asks, how do you depreciate with cost seg analysis? So that'll be definitely covered in the tax bonus tax module. So depreciation, you're going to get depreciation no matter what. It's called straight line depreciation, where the value of the building is divided by 27 and a half for residential, divided by 39 years for commercial property, and short-term rental is considered commercial. And then that's straight line depreciation. If you do a cost seg study, you can accelerate that depreciation. So a lot of that depreciation is front loaded. And that's how you do that.
Let me explain, just going back to depreciation. Basically, the government sees your property as losing value every single year. And so that's why you're able to write off part of your property's value, even though it's probably gaining value.
All right, Nirmala, what is it called when we can use passive income like ambulatory center income against real estate passive losses? What do I ask the CPA for?
Yeah, so if you have passive losses from your real estate, then you can just ask them to apply it towards your passive income coming in from an ambulatory center.
Yep, and passive. So real estate, by definition, is considered a passive activity. So rental activity is considered a passive activity, unless you have something called, unless you have real estate professional status, or you operate a short-term rental, which is not considered a rental activity. That's why it's outside of those passive rules. And so, so you just, you can tell them, yes, I want to, like Lechi said, I want to apply my rental property passive losses against my passive income from my ambulatory surgical centers. You can mention the passive activity rules, publication 925. IRS publication 925. That might be something, but they should, if you have a real estate CPA, they should know this really well. Yeah. If you don't, then you might have to tell them about publication 925.
Or find somebody who knows this.
Well, or they can maybe read 925. APRM. So we can use 1031 exchange to cover rehab costs. Well, yeah, I think. No, you're going to apply it to the purchase, and then you're going to. I don't think that generally what you do is you're gonna take all those proceeds and use it to purchase the property. I don't know if you can separate that out and put it into like an escrow account. I don't think most people do that.
Most people don't do it, but I actually think there is a way.
Yeah, you might pay taxes on it though. That's the problem.
Yeah, I believe it's mentioned in Amanda Hahn and Matthew McFarland's second book, which is
Advanced Tax
Strategies. I think she actually covers this. And I think there is a way. It just becomes very complicated and you just want to make sure that you're thinking through the numbers exactly. And so the easiest thing to do is just buy bigger properties. The cool thing is, as you grow and you're getting bigger and bigger properties that are 5-plex and above, you're getting commercial loans. A lot of them will give you the rehab money or part of the rehab money to be able to actually do the rehab on your property. And so like our 32 unit is part of the loan, our 42 units, part of the loan, that we get the rehab costs as part of our loan. So as you get bigger and those rehab costs become more and more, it actually becomes less of an issue because your lender oftentimes will cover at least part of it.
Yeah, and then you said, can we use renovation costs to show losses and
absolutely
and shelter W-2 income? Yeah, so one of the most valuable things about getting a real estate CPA is that they will help you distinguish between things that are treated as immediate repairs, expenses, versus something that has to be depreciated. So a lot of times rehabs, if you don't have a real estate CPA, is that they're going to just depreciate your rehab. And you don't actually have to do that. You can actually write off most of your rehab if you have somebody who is real estate savvy. So you want to make sure you get the right CPA. That's one of the biggest values of a real estate CPA that most people don't know about this.
Yeah.
Most people think it's about real estate professional status and short-term rental tax loophole, but that's not where the real benefit is. A lot of the benefit is from repairs versus capitalized expenses. So that's something you may want to read about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say when we first started out, we didn't know about depreciation and accelerated depreciation. This is how we were creating all our losses, by rehabbing. So it can be really substantial.
What are viable strategies for acquiring 0% down loans? So a lot of the 0% down opportunities are owner occupied. So a house hack. So you live in one unit and you rent out the other unit. That's a viable strategy. Another way to do it is to go find a lender who will give you a low money down and then get a seller credit to offset that down payment. And you can potentially buy something zero down. Another way would be to get a loan and have the lender approve a seller financing. And so get the seller to provide a loan on the down payment. So you're putting 0% down. Whether that's possible, you have to kind of negotiate with the lender, but that is another potential strategy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways.
Yeah. And then say, obviously, go ahead.
You can raise money from friends and family. Right?
Of course. Yeah.
What were we going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, we oftentimes see people getting the 0% or low money down loans in commercial space, so 5 units and above. But I think Waylan's example was a short-term rental, like a condo that she got 0 down on. So it just shows you what's possible with the right relationships.
Anonymous asks, I'm 63. Will my age affect financing availability or terms that could materially affect my ability to find cash flow positive deals? I don't think so. I think on the residential side, I don't think so. On the commercial side, will that age matter? I know that I have heard that at a certain age, there's concerns about being able to pay off your loan, right? But I don't think at 63 you would run into that problem. But that's something it's a great question that we would connect you with our different lenders. You can ask that question and they will give you very clear answers on that. And then how has the rate environment and interest costs of the past 6 months affected cash flows? Well, it's just a variable like any other. And so if one variable is higher, the other variables have to be lower in order for you to maintain the cash flow, right? And so if the rate is high in a high rate environment, then your purchase price has to get down. And that's one way. Another way would be you can look for other sources of financing. A lot of people are looking into loan assumptions, right? So inheriting somebody else's low rate loan, right? That would be one way to do it.
And seller financing.
Yeah, and seller financing would be another one. Right. So like blend a low interest seller financing with a higher 6-7% mortgage. You blend those two rates together, you can actually get a reasonable rate and still cash flow. But you can either reduce the purchase price, reduce expenses in order to maintain cash flow.
Yeah, and you probably heard us mention earlier in the presentation that people are always asking us, hey, can I lower my cash and cash expectations based on the environment? And we don't. Even in this environment with the interest rates being much higher, the price has to come down in order for you to have that cash flow buffer. And that cash flow buffer is so important. Again, not buying a liability is really key to your long-term wealth building. And so, yeah, we in this community, we have criteria and we follow our criteria and we don't buy bad deals.
Yeah. And Chris, yeah, we have a residential lender who can help you get pre-approved. And so I would hold off just because you don't want to. Okay, credit pulls aren't a big deal, but I know that can be a big deal for some people and does affect your credit score for a short term. And so if you're going to do a credit pull anyway, just you want to make sure you get the credit pull with after knowing what you're looking for. You want to make sure you have an investor friendly lender, and so I would just hold off if you're going to sign up for the course. We do cover it in the pre-course. So as soon as you sign up, you're going to get a module where we talk about it. And you can also post in the Facebook community, tag us and ask us that question about, hey, I'm the one who, posts that question at the masterclass about residential lenders. Can you talk me through that? And I'm happy to kind of summarize the key points about investor-friendly lenders.
Yeah, Chris, I also want to comment. This course is really about progress. So every single week, there's homework that you do and you are in a better position than next week. And so week 1 or the pre-course, it's getting pre-approved because you have to get pre-approved to be able to put in offers. And so week 1, you get pre-approved, you set up your business email, you start to make progress in really thinking about your real estate business and taking steps to get it started. And, by week 4, you're getting introduced to agents in your market. So you've chosen your market, you have your team already built, you're getting your agents. By week 4, week 5, people are putting in offers. So just know that we actually have all the resources you need. This is a proven method. A lot of people gone through this, and in a month, you'll be in a totally different position than you are right now.
Yeah, and Astra Joad asks, this all seems so overwhelming with our already busy work schedules. How do those that choose to start take that first step? And this is it, right? This is a proposed first step here. And what we're saying is that, we break down the content into bite-sized chunks. Yes, it would be overwhelming if you were faced with looking at thousands of YouTube videos and trying to figure this out on your own. Again, it's a proven model for how to how to make significant progress with very, very minimal effort.
Yeah, and we simplified everything and only gave you what you needed. It's not like we gave you a glossary of 3,000 different terms to learn. We literally gave you a glossary that includes only the things you need to know to be successful, because you don't have to know a lot of things that are not useful. And so we really simplified it down. And refilming this course, we were always thinking about, does this really need to be in here, or is it something that they can wait and they can get in Empire Builders? And so we're very, very, very mindful about only including what you need to know and not having fluff. We know as doctors, you do not want fluff, and we get it.
Yeah. Somebody was asking about a seller credit. Seller credit is when you negotiate with the seller to give you a loan, right? So seller, like, let's say the seller has paid off
a loan.
Seller credit. Sorry, you're right. That was a seller financing.
Yeah.
I was thinking. So seller credit is when the seller gives you
money back at closing.
Money back at closing. Yeah, exactly. So they're going to make certain amount of money, and they say, okay, I'll give you 5,000 towards closing, and you can use that to pay for your closing costs, maybe to pay for your down payment.
Yeah, and Jen and Raf, one of the examples we showed you, they bought a sixplex that was like $450,000. They ended up coming to closing with $9,000 because they had all these seller credits. So it can be very, very substantial, especially when you get into commercial properties that don't have a limit on the amount of seller credits you can get, where residential loans do have that limit.
And then Amanda B, this recording will be shared. If you sign up for the masterclass, you'll get a recording of it.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Evening.
Yeah, so your husband can watch, your skeptical husband can watch it.
And again, that's so common in this community, is that usually one person takes the lead, and sometimes the partner doesn't want to be involved at all. Sometimes they are involved, but it's normal.
Yeah. If someone has, Amanda Hall asked, if someone has 4 long-term rentals, obtains rep status, but has a property manager for one of the 4 properties, can bonus depreciation be taken on all 4 properties? Yes. Or only those that you actively manage? No, you can bonus depreciate any property regardless of whether or not you have a property manager.
Yeah, it's just you got to meet real estate professional in the year that you then do the bonus depreciation in, right? Because then it makes it active losses, so you can shelter active income.
Asra asks also, how does CME qualify? Have others use CME funds to get the course reimbursed? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, people have, and they have been able to do that. CME.
We're not involved in that process, though.
Yeah,
it's between you and your institution.
Yeah.
So please don't write us about that, because we don't intervene between you and your institution about whether or not they're going to reimburse you. But the CME is based on your reflections of the content. It's not based on the content. So it's not like they're giving you CME on the real estate course content. They're giving you CME on your reflections on the content. And a lot of the reflections are based on module 1, where we cover a lot of the mindset. I think, was it you were feeling overwhelmed? Well, that's one of the things that we're going to talk about, is that, yes, we understand that this feeling of overwhelm, very common. Anytime you're trying something new or doing something new, just imagine when you were a resident, you were doing your first central line. Was that overwhelming? Yeah, it probably was, right? But after doing it, once you were a senior resident, was that overwhelming? No, not at all, right? Your circle of control has expanded. Once you do something, all of a sudden you feel comfortable with anything in that circle, right? Because you've done it. And so same thing with real estate, you're gonna be a lot more comfortable once you do it. But a lot of it is making sure you train your mind to push forward and make progress despite that feeling of overwhelm, despite that feeling of fear. That's what we're going to teach you. And that's what so you can reflect on that, right? And that's what the CME is about.
Yeah, somebody asked, can my wife and I share the same course account, get emails, be in the same Facebook? Yes. We highly encourage you to bring in a significant other or a spouse. If they're interested, absolutely. Because part of what you're doing is you're kind of creating a financial plan for your future. You're thinking about how much cash flow do you want? Why are you doing this? I think there was an earlier question that I wanted to mention that when something's important to you, you make it a priority, you get it done. And I think that's why a lot of people are successful with this course, because they come in and they think about, why am I doing this? It's for my family. It's to be able to contribute to, a foundation, to be able to do medical missions. People have so many reasons why they're doing that. When you have that strong emotional why, then you know why it's important to you, and then you make it a priority to get it done and to build that source of income because you have a reason that you want it in your life.
Yep. Well, so let me see. Oh yeah. So one other thing I was going to say was that, sorry. So yeah, we've had a number of skeptical spouses who, by watching us, right, like seeing how like we're both involved, right, and that inspired them to just kind of be more open to it, and then they listened to the modules, attended the live Q&As, and we've even inspired some skeptical spouses, right?
And some marriages.
Yeah, and some.
Yeah, no, we've had a number of people get married.
We did have some people get married. Yeah, that's right.
A couple of people get
That's
married
true.
for
That's
real
true.
estate professional, among other
Well, not
things.
just real estate professional, but yeah, that's one of the reasons. Carrie.
Yeah, if I already signed up and paid, do I get these bonuses as well? Yeah, Carrie, if you sign up during the waitlist sale, you will get invited to the Dallas short-term rental. And yeah, you do also get this, download the checklist.
What about the Dallas short-term rental? That's what she's asking.
Yeah.
The
That's
Dallas
what I said.
short-term rental? Oh, okay.
I said, if you signed up
Okay.
during the waitlist sale, you do get access to that.
Okay. All right. Jay Porter, is the Dallas event available for those who have previously purchased CETA?
Previously, as in like years ago, or as in this course? If it's this course, yes. If it's previous in the past, like, and you're talking about doing the reboot, no.
Okay. All right. Amita, I'm in California and having trouble finding anything where the numbers make sense. Any advice aside from look elsewhere? Actually, yeah, I do have an article on how to cash flow in high cost of living markets. And so I don't know if Marvik can kind of look for that article and post it. But yeah, it's just, you're going to just have to be more creative. And we're just talking about inviting somebody for a podcast episode, providing housing for women who just got out of jail and they're cash flowing like crazy in these major cities, right? So yeah, if you get creative, maybe group housing, something like that. So
No, not the right article.
No, Margaret, that's not it. How to cash flow in high cost of living markets, I think. Okay.
Yeah, and we do have actually a fair amount of investors in Sacramento, like people investing in Sacramento. So there are pockets, and Latifat will come in and do a session. She's a money coach. She comes in and does a session. She also invests in real estate, and she actually invests in Sacramento too. So that'd be another good person to ask.
Yep, but there are some people in the course who, among the, I'm sure among the mentors or coaches that could provide some input or have some experience.
Nice job, Marvik. That's
Yeah,
right.
thank you. Yep. And then, but I did want to mention one thing, which is that, I'm not going to give you the answer of look elsewhere, but I guess I'll ask you the question, right? Is why not elsewhere, right? Like what's the limiting, like what's stopping you from investing elsewhere? And that's something that we would work with you on, right? Well, typically that is oftentimes, some fear or some I guess it is fear ultimately. And so, so we would definitely help you work through that. We even have content in the course talking about remote investing.
I will say that most people who are doing this for a year end up in multiple markets as well. So when we have people come into the course who are concerned and they want to invest locally, we oftentimes encourage them to invest remotely first and kind of build those skills and build those muscles. And then investing remotely and building your team, investing close by and building your team close by then becomes like so easy for them because they've done it remotely and they had to get over that mindset shift of being able to do that. So a lot of people are in 2 or 3 markets within a year of investing in our community.
Daniel Guzman asks, I'm currently a fellow looking to invest in real estate next year. Once I finish my fellowship, are you planning on having a similar course available for next year?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we do our course usually about twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
I will also say we do have a lot of fellows and we have new attendings. I know somebody else was asking about that earlier in the chat. And and people investing with student loans. It's really, really common. Sometimes people will do things like they'll house hack. We have a contingent of people who will buy a primary residence that's a duplex or a fourplex, and they'll live in one unit, and they grow their wealth pretty significantly that way. If they don't have a whole lot of savings, they can put very little down. But investing with loans, also extremely common. People use the cash flow to be able to pay off their loans if they want to. Usually what they want to do is keep their loans at 2, 3, 4% interest, and then make that 10% plus all the other money from forced depreciation and tax savings, and build their wealth on the side, paying off minimum of their student loans. That's usually what people end up doing.
Patrick asked, does the course cover both long and short-term rental strategies? So we do. What we teach in Zero to Freedom is how to buy cash flowing properties of any type. And so it's all about buying that property right, getting those great deals, whether it's a long-term rental, short-term rental, medical office, or whatever, right? That's kind of the idea, and buying it for cash flow and forced depreciation, taking advantage of those tax benefits. That's what we teach. Now, do we teach you how to operate a short-term rental profitably? No, that's our other course. If you want to learn how to operate a short-term rental profitably, that's choosing, the right type of property, knowing how to stand out among your competition because it is getting much more competitive, how to mitigate risk with a short-term rental because short-term rentals are inherently more risky, and then how to operate them profitably. That's our other course. We do have a bonus module on short-term rentals in this course in Zero to Freedom. We have actually another bonus module at the end of the Zero to Freedom course.
We also include a section on the cash on cash calculator for short-term rentals, which is a new thing that we included this time. And that's just because so many people do come into our course and say, hey, I want to buy a short-term rental first. Most people have a mix of properties in their portfolio in this community. But let's say you want to buy a short-term rental first. There is a cash on cash calculator that we go through showing you how to use it. And then you're welcome to put your cash on cash calculations for short-term rentals in the Facebook community. A lot of our coaches own short-term rentals. And so we're going to be helping you analyze short-term rentals. You're going to learn how to negotiate. You're going to learn how to force appreciation, all those pieces. But again, like Kenji said, you're not going to necessarily have a deep dive into the software you need for your short-term rental. That is accelerating well.
Mash asks, do you see more opportunities today than 6 months ago? Does it make sense to hold out for the market to fall more? Mash, this is a real easy one, which is, do we see more opportunities today than 6 months ago? Not necessarily. Sellers are still kind of holding out, and they're not lowering prices as much as you would expect. But there's probably some more opportunities, but I think there's more negotiating leverage. Buyers have a much more negotiating leverage. So if you know what you're doing, you should be able to get better deals. Does it make sense to hold out? This one I can answer without a doubt. If you wait till the market falls, then for you it's too late, right? Because you're going to be scrambling to learn when the greatest opportunities are available, right?
And to build a team,
yes.
And to build those deep relationships.
Like, how are you going to get to the top of your agents list if you're just getting started? They're not interested in working with a newbie, right? You want to have some experience. You want to have time to develop those relationships so that when those deals come, they're going to give it to you. And again, we talked about how real estate is inefficient, right? How do you get a $4 million property for $3 million, right? You do that through a relationship. And that relationship that I'm talking about was built over, probably a year or 2 years of buying other properties, and just showing him, the agent, that we were serious investors and that we knew what we were doing and we're not a pain in the butt to work with, right? So that's how we did that.
And you need to look at a lot of deals to be able to recognize a good deal. So you definitely want to be practicing now. Definitely.
Yeah. And then Kayla asked, I don't have the knowledge on how to make improvements, but would like to invest. How do you flip a house without a vision? Hire an architect, hire a designer. I signed up yesterday. Awesome. So a lot of the improvements that we're talking about, a lot of the hidden value is when it's like adding a bedroom, right? That's just putting up a wall. It's not really something you need an architect for. If you're adding a unit in a basement, for example, that's just going in and saying, oh, has high ceilings, I can see making a bedroom here, and you can just put some tape down, and there's nothing really.
Your contractor also helps.
Yeah,
you.
your contractor
team members
will do.
help
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
I'm trying to think of, we never really hired an architect, except we hired one to give input on our short-term rental in Index, Washington, but that's it. Almost always we just do it ourselves with our contractor. And so we're not flipping. Also, I want to add, flipping is when you take a property that's, in terrible shape, turn it into something that's great shape and sell it. You pay a lot of taxes. That's income tax rates. And so we're buy and holding. We're buying a property. Somebody asked if we're burring. So burring is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, which is pull out the money and use that, and repeat, which is use it to buy your next property. Like, that's a lot of what we're doing. We're forcing that appreciation that allows us to reuse the same money over and over again, because if you don't do that, you're in a position to try to save up or find that money. That's much more difficult than just increasing the value of a property and using the same money over and over again. So we'd encourage you to really think about buy and hold strategy, which is getting that cash flow instead of flipping and selling at a profit, but paying taxes and having to do it again. We have some properties in our portfolio that we've literally had since 2015, right? And they just make more and more cash flow every year, and it's phenomenal. So that's the buy and hold strategy.
Right. Yeah. And somebody was asking, is this just all burr? You were just answering that one. Okay. Yeah. But I did want to mention, why is it not, right? It's because there's so much more to it, right? There's the tax benefits that we were talking about, taking advantage of those. It's combining multiple strategies. Burr is just maybe just one type of strategy, which uses some, which uses like cash out refis. But nowadays, right, cash out refis with the higher interest rates, people are having to shift and maybe instead of doing burrs, considering 1031 exchanges. Somebody was just asking Pearl Samuel was asking, what is a 1031 exchange? It's just selling that property instead of taking that money out, doing a cash out refi, right? It's selling that property, taking all that gain, all that value that you created and putting it into next property. Normally you would pay capital gains when you do that, but you can defer those capital gains and you don't have to pay those taxes at that time. It's like growing your wealth in a 401k, right? That's what the 1031 exchange does, but it's with real estate, not with stocks.
But it's even better because we just 1031 property into property into property, but our intention is to die and hand these properties over to our kids, at which point, if we put it in the right structure, they're going to get a new set point. So let's say we die and we hand them over 10 million in properties. That's the new set point. They never have to pay back the taxes that we deferred all those years. And so that's really one of the key strategies for generational wealth that we haven't really mentioned, but that a lot of us in our community are intending on doing.
Yeah, somebody was asking, why are we doing this course? And I think that's a great question. There's a lot of reasons. Certainly generational wealth for our kids is definitely one of them. But more importantly for us, I think it's a big part of it for me is growth. And, I can't tell you how many growth opportunities there are when you are building a business. I've been entrepreneurial all my life. I've started multiple, startups. I've also, used to work at McKinsey & Company doing management consulting. I did that before, going back to medicine and doing medicine for about 10 years, as a hospitalist. But yeah, a big part of this for me is that growth opportunity. The course actually also pushes me to keep growing my real estate portfolio, my real estate skills. And so going bigger. So at one point I had a fear of going from a sixplex, which was the biggest property we had at that time. I couldn't even imagine buying 100-unit property. It just was too big for me. It just felt like too scary, right? That overwhelmed feeling we were just talking about, the fear, just like the fear of investing out of state. I had this fear of buying a bigger property. I'm like, who am I to think that I can go out and buy a bigger property? Well, if I'm teaching a course and I'm teaching people and pushing them to go out and buy their first rental property, well, I'm a hypocrite if I can't go push myself to go buy 100-unit property. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do it. It's just a fear. I'm going to overcome it. And then we bought a 32-unit. We bought a 32. Well, we bought a 32-unit, and then we bought well, then I guess we bought a 42 unit, quickly followed by the 160 unit. And yeah, a big part of this is growth. Back in 2017, when we achieved financial freedom, one of the things that we achieved financial freedom, it was like, oh, why do we need to do this? Like, why do we need to keep pushing ourselves? And I was really actually unfulfilled. And I realized the reason why was because I wasn't pushing myself and growing anymore. So that's one big piece. And another big piece is contribution for us. And another path to fulfillment is contribution. We contribute by helping others achieve financial freedom. We did this for free for a long time, but man, I'll tell you right now, people didn't do stuff. Like people didn't act.
Didn't take action.
90, like 9.9 out of 10 people we helped did nothing, zero. But once we started charging, people actually took action. So I feel like the course, actually helps people to spur action. So contribution is a big piece.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Our community is amazing, and to see what people do with all we give them is knowledge, and people take it and they do incredible things and change their family's whole trajectory and their family's future and their kids' future. It is one of the most amazing things to have the honor to watch it. And it really does fill us. And we wouldn't want to be anywhere else than to see what people do with what they get and how they change their lives. So it really is about watching transformation for us and knowing that we helped in some small way for that.
But do we feel challenges and stress and growth? A lot,
Yeah.
right? We do a lot.
We do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of growth here.
A lot of growth going on. Yeah. Abby, how do you force appreciation on new construction and get the short-term rental tax loophole? Forced depreciation or forced appreciation? Forced depreciation.
I think she's talking about forcing appreciation on new construction. And I think we answered that earlier. Like you can't really usually force appreciation. Usually you're paying at market value.
Retail.
I will say though, one of our students, Christina Tran, she bought a new construction in Palm Springs and she put a pool in. And so she did force appreciation, and that property has gained a ton of value, and she did really awesome design too. So she's made a lot of money on that property.
If you're talking about depreciation, you can depreciate a new construction.
Yeah, you can depreciate properties
day.
over and over again. Anytime it's a new owner, you can depreciate it again. And short-term rental tax loophole with new construction, I think the short-term rentals, there are two main loopholes or two ways people harvest the loophole, and 100 hours and more than anyone else is one of them. And so those of us who do rehabs with our short-term rentals are very cautious about making sure we do more hours than anyone else if we're going for that 100 hours and more than anyone else. So we tend to do smaller rehabs or defer rehabs until the second year. And then those of us who go for the 500 hours of material participation across our short-term rental portfolio don't have to worry about doing more than anyone else. And so you just buy multiple short-term rentals and depreciate them and just make sure you have 500 hours across them, which is very easy to do in a calendar year.
Mash asks, is short-term rental and Airbnb?
Yes.
It's another term. And then what do you think of buying a cabin in Tahoe or Big Bear for Airbnb? Yeah, we know we have people in our community who have bought in both markets, and we have good team members there who can help you with that. But I would be very careful with Tahoe, especially. There's going to be some restrictions, and there may be even some changes coming in Big Bear. I don't know about Big Bear specifically, but Tahoe, I know there have definitely been some restrictions. It just depends on where you buy around the lake. But yeah.
But if you did end up in our course, make sure you ask this in Empire Builders when you get there too, because there are a number of people who bought in Tahoe and Big Bear in the last couple of years in our community.
John, how much longer will bonus depreciation be available? Isn't it being phased out? Yes, it is. You're right. This year it's 80%. And then 2027, I think, is the last year when it goes to zero. And so it's true, but if you look at some charts, Marvik, if you can post an article called Bonus Depreciation Phase Out Explained, and that article will show you a chart which shows that even without any bonus depreciation, you can get the majority of that depreciation, that accelerated depreciation, or you can get the majority of that bonus depreciation in the first 5 years of ownership. And so it will probably change some strategies for people, but you'll still be able to get a chunk of that depreciation, or actually the majority of that depreciation, the same as 100% bonus depreciation if you hold on to it for 5 years. So I think it probably will change some behavior in terms of people might hold on to their properties a little longer, and maybe will be more burrs because people are holding on to them a little bit longer instead of 1031 exchanging. But anyway, that's a good question. But I don't think, if you're asking, is this going to affect the strategy? I don't think it's going to affect the strategy. I think it's going to maybe shift some behaviors a little bit, but it's still the strategy that we're teaching is still appropriate. Still makes sense. Like I said, we didn't have bonus depreciation when we first started. We did a lot of this with a lot of repairs and renovations. That's how we got a lot of losses in shelter on income. Mita asks, what's the incentive for an agent to give you the best deals when they can take those themselves? Well, one is the relationship that we have in our network. So being part of our network, they appreciate, especially in a recession, they appreciate being introduced to investors who have recession-proof jobs. Maybe not COVID recession-proof jobs, but definitely I think doctorate jobs or high-income professionals have more recession-resistant jobs. So that is a huge benefit. That's one. But the other one is that we train you guys, and we also teach you in week 4. We teach you how to work with investor agents. Like if you don't know how to work with an investor agent, you're going to be at the bottom of the list. And so what we're going to teach you in the course is how do you work with an agent to get to the top of their list. So there is work to do. There's stuff to learn. You have to learn how to do that. And it's like I said earlier about I think it was Mash was saying, well, can I wait till the market gets even worse? No, you want to build your relationships now, and that's going to take some time.
Also, I want to add with the real estate agents, there are some real estate agents who aren't building their own portfolios of rentals, and so they're not competing with you.
Yep.
There's some agents who are, and they are going to cherry pick a lot of the good deals, but even they run out of money and can't buy everything. So you still get access to really great deals. We've worked with a lot of agents who also invest, and we still get really great deals. So I think that there are many, many good deals out there, and that our tendency always is to think scarcity thinking, like there aren't enough good deals out there, but there are lots and lots of good deals. And if you think in abundance, like they can get good deals and you can get good deals, and it still works.
And not only that, you can actually make good deals. So an agent might give you a deal and not think it's a great deal. They didn't cherry pick it for themselves, but they handed it to you. And then you get to work with negotiating, right? And that's how if you can get a $200,000 haircut, right? I know that's an outlier, but if you get a really good haircut on it, then that's how you can make a great deal, right? Make it even better. And then the agent's going to be like, man, I should have bought the property because I didn't know you're going to get that much off. And that's part of the beauty of this, right? Is that you can make it even better. It's not just you have to pay the price that it's listed for. No, you can negotiate and get a better deal.
Marvik, there's a couple questions about real estate professional and the short-term rental tax loophole. So maybe you could put articles on
tax benefits of
short-term
rentals and primer on real estate professional status. Those 2 articles, please. Thanks for the bonus depreciation phase out explain. That's great. Jen asks, can you claim both the short-term rental tax loophole and reps if you own both kinds of properties? Yes.
Yep. And we have a fair amount of people in the community doing that, and we've done it ourselves.
Yep. Chi-Chi, do you create an LLC business bank account for your real estate business before or after your purchase? So we cover this in depth in the asset protection module, but in brief, it kind of depends on the property you're buying. If you are buying a residential property, you have to buy it in your name. So residential investment property, you have to buy it in your name usually. There are ways to buy a residential property with commercial loans, but generally you're buying it in your own name anyway. So a lot of people might wait to create an LLC later in the process, but you definitely don't have to do it before before your purchase. You can do it after your purchase. Now, if you're buying a commercial property, then a lot of people will form the LLC earlier because you're going to buy the property in the name of the LLC. And at that point, yeah, then it makes sense to buy the business bank account, set up the business bank account once you have your LLC. So, but these are the little nuances, right? This requires some, some thinking, conversation, kind of depends on what you want to do. And so that's the value of this community where you can ask questions and get different people's opinions and thoughts, and you can decide what's important to you. And so I would probably ask you a couple more questions about your personal situation before, giving you my thoughts, but I just kind of gave you generic thoughts on residential versus commercial and timing of when you set up your LLC and set up your bank account. Anonymous asks, is it easy to accumulate greater than 100 hours in short-term rentals to get the tax benefit? Yes, very easy.
And we give you an example of Elisa Krim doing that.
Remotely.
Yeah, and she flies to her short-term rentals and she sets them up. And, there's a lot of time that goes into due diligence of your property and getting the loan and all those hours. They really do add up. And so we did this actually with our property in Index, Washington too. And yeah, it's pretty easy to really get those hours. And then how much travels are needed to manage a remote short-term rental property? I mean, there are a lot of people who don't travel to their short-term rental property after they set it up. They have property managers or they have boots on the ground. They're self-managing their short-term rentals, and they have cleaners and they have handymen, and they're doing it all remotely. You don't have to necessarily travel if you don't want to. A lot of people want to go to their short-term rentals and spend time working in them and be able to stay there too. So there's a wide range of what people do, but very, very, very doable and done. Gosh, I think there's over 300 short-term rentals now on our Empire Builders list of short-term rentals owned. So
some people will do it in one trip. They'll go for let's say a week and set up their short-term rental. Imagine working 12 hours a day for 7 days. You got 84 hours right there.
Yeah, but you don't need.
But you don't. Yeah, you don't need to.
84 hours at that point.
Yeah,
you don't, because you had to order all the furniture ahead of time, and yeah.
Do you think the government would change the rules around short-term rental activity to categorize it more closely to real estate and therefore affect the ability to use losses against active income? Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know, but
maybe
we're going to say
yeah, we
maybe.
don't know.
Who knows?
But the thing is to know is that most people, what they're doing is they're using it this year, right? They're buying their property, they're doing 100 hours and more than anyone else in the calendar year, or they're doing 500 hours and they're using it this year. They're not waiting 10 years to harvest it. So, right now it is what it is. So why not buy a short-term rental or 2 or 3 this year and start harvesting that income and our tax savings? And the cool thing is you do the cost segregation study. Let's say you create 500,000 in losses and you only have 200,000 in income. Well, those losses, because you were active this year, those 300,000 in losses are still active. They just carry to next year. And now you shelter your income with active income next year. So there are people in our community who have hundreds of thousands of dollars of losses saved up that are active losses. They're not going to be paying taxes for years and years to come because they built up all these losses.
I can't imagine a lot's going to get done in the next couple of years from in terms of new laws and things like that. People have been talking about, getting rid of 1031 exchanges and things like that, but none of that stuff has happened, and so, yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I personally doubt it.
And I wouldn't let that stop you from
investing. That's just one small sliver of a thing that at the end of the day, right? Yeah, there's still lots of benefits to investing, not just the tax benefits.
Okay, we'll do a couple more questions. Yep. And then if you have any other further questions, the other places we would send you, Marva, can you send them to semi-retired physicians or semi-retired professionals to be able to ask more questions too?
Well, I think we can get through all these. Why cash flowing short-term rental, long-term rental versus flipping? Flipping is a job. You're getting paid for the activity. If you stop the activity, you're not paid anymore. And then also the taxes are just like W-2 income. You're taxed on the income, and so you're not getting the tax benefits. So that's the reason why we buy cash flowing rentals. How long do we have access to the 7 modules? Lifetime. For a lifetime, we talked about that. Matthew asked, does a short-term rental have to be in an LLC to force appreciation, get the cash out refi, or can it be a second home loan?
Yeah, we have a lot of people using second home loans, 10% down.
You can force appreciation on any property. Anonymous, does Zeta have any content on syndications? No, but you will you will
actually be able to
yeah,
vet deals.
Yeah, exactly. You will
Because,
actually, right.
You know how a cash and cash calculator works, and then you'll be able
It's
to
true.
actually look at what the numbers are that its indicators are giving you and be able to see the holes in the numbers.
Right,
So
right.
that's actually
That's
a skill.
extremely valuable. Yeah, I have a podcast episode where we talk about the questions that Cindy or the I can't remember exactly what it was, but
I mean, a lot of
questions
people,
that syndicators don't want you to ask. And so yeah, so the key is you got to know, right? You got to be able to analyze these deals, and unless you have done it, it's really it's like again reading it or watching a video or reading about central line placements and actually doing it. There's a huge difference. And so analyzing a deal yourself and actually going out and buying it is and forcing appreciation is very different than just kind of reading about it and learning about it. By actually doing it, you're going to know so much more about vetting those syndications. And if you want to lead syndications,
there's a huge
component. This is how I think that this is the way that if you want to lead a syndication, this is the path, right? You got to learn how to do it on your own, and then you go lead a syndication by buying a bigger property.
Yeah,
that's where people are going.
I would add that, a lot of people say just, to vet your syndicator, just look at their past history. I mean, that's because they can't evaluate the deal. They can't look at the cash and cash calculator and know what's going on. So they're just hoping that past performance equals future performance. And that's flying blind.
Yeah. I think that's a fairly thin assessment of a syndication, is just vetting the syndicator. It's important, of course, but yeah, you want to be able to analyze the deal. Patrick, what about liability and owning real estate as physicians? Have you ever been sued, or has anyone tried to sue for slip or fall? We definitely have incidents, but I think our asset protection structure has saved us. And things will happen for sure, but that's why you really want to spend some time on asset protection. That's why we have a module. It's probably one of our longest modules where we talk about asset protection and the strategies that people use. And yeah, absolutely, doctors. That's why I don't know anybody in our course well, that's not true. Some people go with insurance alone, but I would say the majority of people will use some type of an asset protection strategy. And yeah, absolutely, I think that's what I would do. And then last question, yay, is commercial or residential better? I wouldn't say
both have upsides and downsides.
I wouldn't say one is better than the other. Yeah, like Letizia said, both have upsides and downsides.
Yeah, and Marvick, there is an article there's a podcast in Doctors Building Wealth about upsides and downsides of short-term rent. I mean, of single family, multifamily, large multifamily.
Yeah, do we talk about residential and commercial?
I don't know if we do
Okay.
talk about commercial properties like office space and stuff like that in that one though. Yeah.
Well, thank you for everyone who stuck through 2 hours. Wow, you guys are awesome. And if you guys signed up for the course, look forward to seeing you guys in the course and
maybe at the Dallas short-term rental.
And maybe at the Dallas short-term rental.
Weeks.
Okay, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, awesome. Yep, there's a link for sign up. Okay.
Bye.
Good night,
guys.
All right, bye.